got a 9% chance. On the other hand, all you got to do is win 2 games. We'll definitely talk about Beast Coast. I believe it's only happened 5 times that the team that goes down 0-2 in the finals comes back. So tie it 2-2. That's the stat I read on Twitter. I didn't double check it, so I could be wrong, but that's the stat I've heard. Team Liquid mentality. No, 5 times in history. The grand finals only happen once a season, right? I don't know how many Stanley Cup finals there have actually been. Probably like 50 or so. Also exciting news that Element qualifiers start next week. Element 3 open quals. I'm excited to announce that I will be doing a little bit of co-streaming, a little bit of community casting for these games. So we'll be watching such fantastic teams as the Bay Harbor Butchers, Upper Decky, Monkey Business V2. So get excited for that. The new HUD is awful. Definitely going to talk about the new HUD as well today. Yeah, Wanted Goons. I was going to say Wanted Goons is a good team because I've covered them before. I think they've made some roster moves, though. I'm sure they're still good. Motherfuckers think they're a Dexter Morgan. I love Dexter. Well, I love the early seasons of Dexter. Dexter got kind of shit by the end. When he walks into a fucking hurricane and doesn't die, that's about when I tuned out. How do you coach him? Did you just ask? I just reached out to Ferme, Dianic. You should do the same. If you're interested. Are there any pro teams playing in Element 3? Yes, I believe Element 3 is now open to pro teams. I don't believe any specific teams have been confirmed, but I would assume that there will be some. Element 3 specifically does not clash with any Esports World Cup stuff. That was done intentionally. So we should get the majority of, I would guess, at least some, of the pro teams joining in. Next week is just open qualifiers, though, so probably no pro teams in that. You don't know where to ask? Reach out to Ferme in DMs. Discord or Twitter. I'm pretty sure his DMs are open. If they're closed, I can ask. I can tell him you're interested. But I think you can reach out yourself. Dexter reboot? I thought the Dexter reboot was fine. I think the end of the original Dexter was worse than the reboot. The reboot wasn't as good as the start, but it was okay. About as cooked as me mentioning Dota. All right. Oh boy, Esports World Cup. I saw Parker's stream, his bang on about the whole thing. It was very good. If you've not watched Parker's bang on about Esports World Cup, Parker obviously is more eloquent on those matters than I am. I will say now, I am going to be co-streaming the Gamers Without, or the World Cup quals. I mean, I plan to. We'll see if I get permission and everything. Beyond that, I don't know. I don't know what's happening, but I want to have content this summer, and we'll leave it at that. Names ending in Nick Supremacy. All right. Do we jump into Beast Coast? Let's jump into Beast Coast. Jump into Beast Coast, then remind me to do the HUD. And then we'll talk about a range of other topics. So if you're completely out of the loop, where if you've been under a rock for 10 years, Twitter light mode incoming. On the 11th, yesterday, Cloud9 posted this. I actually didn't get any leaks about this, so I wasn't sure what this was. Obviously a hint that Cloud9 were returning to Rainbow Six in some capacity. Somebody said in the replies, obviously Beast Coast or Cloud9, when they initially came into Rainbow Six Siege, right? Cloud9 in 2018 first joined R6 by signing the Beast Coast roster. That was Foxay, Goddish, Schlongy, Retro, Laxing. This obviously eventually went on to be Reciprocity, and then now they're known as Oxygen with, I guess, none of the same players now that Fox left. But technically, Cloud9 came in, acquired Beast Coast, eventually sold to Reciprocity. And it's obviously interesting that in their, in their little preview here, this kind of looks like a Beast Coast logo. A swirling little wave, watery type thing. That's very similar to the roster of, to the logo of Beast Coast. So interesting. Goes the same way and all. Then they moved on. They eventually sold their American roster, and they picked up a Korean roster. If I remember correctly, this was largely so that they could stay in the... They didn't want to pay the prices of an NA roster, but they did want to have...
This is beans. Someone put beans.
They did want to have a team in the game so they can continue having esports skins because those were quite profitable back in the day. Thank you very much, JL, for the sub. Appreciate it. So they re-sign a Korean roster instead. They pay him a lot less, presumably. But, it's still good. It's helping out the scene. And this was the best team in Korea for a very long time. I believe this team would eventually be sold to Sandbox, which eventually became FearX. And it's notable as well. Oh, sorry, they just dropped them. They didn't actually directly sell them to Sandbox. They dropped them, and then they got picked up by Sandbox, now known as FearX. And it's notable as well in the announcement trailer. They have a Fear. I don't know what it's technically called. They have a Dread Mine, the shit that makes the Fear clouds from Fenrir. So kind of two little references to their two former teams in their announcement post. That's kind of cool. And then, of course, it's announced today that they are signing with Beast Coast. We'll watch the whole video here. Both orgs tweeted this out.
When America is on top, what
Whose voice is this, by the way? Does anybody know this voice? I don't know who this is.
team do you think of other than Cloud9?
I actually have no idea. It's not a Siege person's voice.
When America is on top, what team do you think of other than Cloud9? Counter-Strike, League, Smash, and Siege? Times might have changed, but we haven't. Let's remind the rest of the world what we're made of. And you might not like it, but this is what peak performance looks like.
Was only trying to hold you close when my heart was
failing.
Why only make a splash when you can make waves?
So the general reaction to this was not really one of hype, not really one of disdain, but mostly one of confusion. Cloud9 and Beast Coast both signing the same team. And this was kind of further solidified by them tweeting out their new jerseys and their new merch, which has both logos on it, has both teams, and it seems very clear at this point that the new team is going to be called Cloud9 Beast Coast. Kind of a mouthful of a name, but not completely brand new. We've seen this throughout esports before. PSG Talent is probably the most relevant name for those who follow Rainbow Six, where PSG are obviously a sports team, Paris Saint-Germain or whatever it is. And Talon is an esports team. They combine. They're now PSG and Talon. I said I wouldn't talk about Dota anymore, but the same thing has happened in Dota with PSG LGD. I don't know why PSG always seems to do it, but it's been a long time thing in their playbook. Let me see if I can find an example. And again, their name is just the two orgs. Their logo is just the two logos. It's incorporated a little bit worse in this one than the PSG Talon, but all in all, this is not like brand new to esports, right? This is all general stuff where two organizations come together to make the same team. Basically, they're both contributing to player salaries, presumably in the past, right? They're both getting some promotion out of it. Now, I heard some people say, oh, they literally just saw them win a major and are now trying to sweep in and get the bag. I don't know if it's that simple, especially because if you go back to this trailer.
You might not like it, but this that we're made of.
Is this... I mean, this is a Beast Coast with a Cloud9 charm. This is actually probably... Nah, this is probably just a bit of promotion they refilmed. I was curious if this was like footage from a real game or something. If maybe they were rocking some Cloud9 charms during the major. But it looks like this is just refilmed promotion. But it's odd that he's like in a Dreadmine. It looks like it's real, but regardless. I would be skeptical that it would take that little time for Cloud9 to like swoop in, sign the players, get it all done. I mean, they won the major like, 2 weeks ago? I would imagine this deal would have taken longer than that to solidify. My guess, and I don't have any inside information on this, so I this is purely speculation on my part. I would guess Cloud9 got this idea and approached Beast Coast, or was somehow working through this after Beast Coast got first place in North America. And maybe once they won the major, that was like mega locked down. There was also a tweet which was interesting. I don't really know what this means. There was a tweet from the Beast Coast CEO that says, 6 years in the making, we did it, boys. I don't get what this means. Maybe maybe Grant's been trying to partner with Cloud9 for 6 years. I'm not up to date on my Beast Coast history, so maybe somebody else can fill that in. It's notably not anything like Astralis and Disrupt, right? I saw somebody in chat asking it. We've got this person on Twitter asking this as well. Astralis bought Disrupt Gaming, right? Disrupt was its own company, and then at some point, the Astralis organization basically bought out the entire company of Beast Coast, and they turned, not Beast Coast, Disrupt. They turned Disrupt into basically Astralis North America. And then they lost a bunch of money and they disbanded them all. Obviously, it didn't go so well. So this is not like that. It's more similar to kind of a PSG Talon situation than a Disrupt and Astralis situation. But there's still a lot of people confused about like what's going on, how long is this going to last, what does this mean, why are they doing it, right? Can we get in here? Thank you. When did Beast Coast sell their old roster to Cloud9? The Wikipedia page has been created in the last 5 minutes. Nice. They sold their roster to Cloud9 back in 2018. Is it more of like a Los +1? Yeah, that's another good example. Although it's less like that because Los won. Yeah, Los +1. They made like a new logo, or they basically just took the Los logo, right? When they were Los +1. Yeah. So this, I assume they're gonna have side-by-side logos similar to like PSG LGD or PSG Talon. It's a slight difference there. Oh, that's where the 6 years in the making comes from. Interesting. Okay, good point. Thank you. Now, a lot of people in the Discord, and I'm going to bring up Discord light mode, so do turn your brightness down. A lot of people in Discord are, again, somewhat, obviously talking about it, and we're curious about what it's going to be like. And people are, this is a good point from Rick and Morty, Beast Coast are loaning their roster to Cloud9 for Esports World Cup. Now, I don't think that's exactly right. I don't think that's true. But I do think there's definitely some truth in that, right? I don't think that's fully right. I don't think that's fully wrong. Because Beast Coast have not at all, as far as I'm aware, interacted with Esports World Cup in any way, shape, or form. And they've been pretty outspoken about their values. I mean, their logo right now is literally the pride flag, right? Something Emmy tweeted out. Beast Coast, let's see if I can find it. I don't know how much she tweets. Yeah. Beast Coast literally has merch that says trans people make esports. They're very open and public about their support for the LGBTQ plus community. Which is great, which is awesome. Fully support that. But they've now partnered with Cloud9, who are kind of sort of going to the Esports World Cup and are very much kind of partnered teams in the Esports World Cup. Let me see if I can find it. Specifically, they are in the Esports World Cup Foundation Club Support Program, which, I'll be real, I don't know exactly what this is or what this means. They say in their blog post here that it basically is a pioneering initiative designed to promote the creation of sustainable infrastructure for multidisciplinary esports clubs. It empowers clubs to expand their investment across more games. So I'm guessing what this means is these orgs are getting money, and in return, they're going to be at the Esports World Cup and collaborating with the Esports World Cup in some way, shape, or form. Now, I'm not going to break down everything, all the controversies between Esports World Cup. You've heard them a million times from everybody, and you can form your own opinions on them. But there's clearly seems to be two different philosophies going on between these orgs. And some organizations have tried to play both sides, like have tried to be fully open in supporting LGBT, as Beast Coast have, while also partnering in the Esports World Cup. Team Liquid have probably been the most vocal about how in their mind it's not hypocritical to be both, essentially. I don't want to listen to all of it because it's an 8.5-minute video, but this is basically Team Liquid's CEO arguing how he feels everything aligns with his values. And he got kind of shit on for this, I won't lie. This did not go over so well with most people. They're beating his ass in the quote retweets. So it's a kind of an awkward situation for Beast Coast to be in on that front. I imagine Beast Coast, the organization, are not really going to touch that side of things. But I imagine the Beast Coast Rainbow Six team will have both the Beast Coast and Cloud9 names throughout the summer. That means at the Esports World Cup, if they go, if they qualify, if they make it, as well as beyond, right? I also have heard some people saying that this is only going to be for the summer, that they're going to drop the team as soon as the Esports World Cup is over, and it's just going to be Beast Coast for NAL Stage 2. I wouldn't assume that off rip. I think it's very likely that this partnership goes for more than 3 months. I don't know for fact, but it would be It would be weird to me if this was only an Esports World Cup partnership. But I do think it's largely an Esports World Cup partnership. And the reason why Cloud9 wants to have another team in the Esports World Cup is because of their whole club awards program, which is effectively where throughout the different games that are being played in Esports World Cup, for organizations that win in many different titles, the club championship, here it is. For organizations that win in many different games, so maybe you're winning in League of Legends and PUBG and Siege, you're going to get points. And at the end of like the fucking 8 weeks or whatever it is of Esports World Cup, the team with like the most points overall gets like an additional cash prize. And it's quite a lot. It's 7 million. Presumably this goes straight to the organization. So for an org like Beast Coast, it is very much incentivized to be in as many games as possible so that you can score as many points as possible throughout the different Esports World Cup competitions and hopefully win yourself $7 million. And I believe this prize pool is bigger than every single game at the Esports World Cup's prize pool. Right? I mean, the entire prize pool for Siege at the Esports World Cup is only $2 million, $750K for first place. Last year, Dota was the highest prize pool. I don't know if it still is. Dota Esports World Cup is $5 million total. So, I mean, with a total prize pool of what is this? $20 million. This is such a bigger deal than any individual game. And in theory, it goes straight to the org. I don't know the details. Maybe some of it goes to the players. I don't know. But it's absolutely insane money for this. And so I think it's very likely that the primary motivator behind this deal is for Cloud9 to get another team to collect points for them in this competition. Because Cloud9 have a lot of... I've got 2 Dota Wikipedia tabs open now. Cloud9 have a lot of other teams in these other tournaments, right? I mean, these are all the games Cloud9 has at one point been a part of. I'm sure they're currently in a lot of them too. Just their Twitter bio says Valorant, League of Legends, CS:GO, Overwatch. I think this is a bit outdated. Their CS:GO team would count for Esports World Cup. A lot of the Riot games. I don't believe there are any Riot games at the Esports World Cup. But they're going to have likely a lot of teams, and if they're doing this, they're probably going to get even more. So, just be aware of what it is. This club competition is something that's happened in the past. Last year at the Esports World Cup, back when it was Gamers 8. Let me look up the exact details of it. Gamers 8 2023 Club Championship. Damn, they really wiped clean everything under the Gamers 8 brand. Okay, my bad. Dexerto has an article on it. Our favorite esports gaming website. Here. So last year, the first place prize was 1.5 million. Obviously a little bit less than the 7 million for first place. And Twisted Minds ending up winning it. Does Dexerto really not even show the full leaderboard? This is a good paragraph, though. Like, the initiative is to encourage investment in the esports industry and collaboration between organizations, players, and publishers, and it seems to be paying off, such as FaZe Clan entering the fighting game scene, signing a pair of Tekken players, right? And this article is arguing, and I'd assume they're probably correct, that FaZe is mostly signing these Tekken players so that they can rise on the leaderboard and get these really fat paychecks. Now, a good question to ask would be, does FaZe still have those Tekken players? Or did they immediately drop them? And I don't know the answer to that. I want to go find out. Fighting games, FaZe Clan. FaZe Clan do still have their 2 Tekken players, so fair enough. Yeah, these players fully seem to still be signed to FaZe Clan. So there is some good seemingly coming out of it for the esports scenes. But the Gamers 8, obviously, / Esports World Cup will come with its own controversies. Shaiko lost to Twisted Minds. Yeah. So that's likely what the deal is. I expect the big takeaways are this is mostly for Cloud9 to get another team for the Esports World Cup club competition because it is by far the biggest deal at the Esports World Cup. We are likely to see more of that in Cloud9. We might see more of this type of acquisitions inside of Siege. And although I don't expect this to be a mega long-term thing, I don't expect, Cloud9 Beast Coast to own this Siege team for years to come. I assume it'll be more than just the summer. I would be a little surprised if it's not at least for Stage 2 and maybe the end of the year as well. So that's the takeaways. That's my take on it. Just to clear that up, because I saw a lot of, comments in the Discord about it where people were on the right track, but maybe not fully aware of kind of how it was working out. Yeah, I would guess maybe it's till SI or something. It's also interesting to theorize, how much of that is going to be, how much investment from Cloud9 is actually going into this, right? Cloud9's obviously getting a potential massive benefit if they, do win the club championship. So, how much are they paying Beast Coast for this part of the organization? I don't know. I would guess the players are still signed through Beast Coast, and Beast Coast, the org, has just signed a deal with Cloud9 to throw their names in. Beast Coast still handle managing the team. Cloud9 gets their logo, and they get the points during the Esports World Cup club competition. How much that's for, I have no idea. All right, many things to move on to. Could Cloud9 stack up a team after? I assume if Cloud9 end their partnership with Beast Coast, they could pick up a different team, but I don't think they would. I assume Cloud9 is just trying here to spend a small amount to have a relatively small amount. I mean, we don't know how much it is. Spend a relatively small amount to get a relatively top team. I don't think they have any interest in getting a team that is not likely to do well. And it's also important to notice that this is, it's possible Beast Coast don't even qualify to the Esports World Cup, which would very much burn Cloud9. There are only 3 North American spots for the Esports World Cup. And while I think Beast Coast should be the favorites to make one of these 3 spots, it's possible they don't, right? It's not that inconceivable to think of a world where fucking Dark Zero, M80, and either Sonics or Oxygen or Space Station come through and take the 3rd spot, right? That's not that crazy of a situation. But I do expect Beast Coast to make it and likely do quite well in this tournament. Like the G2IG partnership in Dota. Yeah, another good example. Although, again, a lot of these other examples, PSG Talon, G2IG, they work together to create cool logos. Okay, bringing up Dota this time is not my fault. Chat can't get mad at me. G2IG's logo, G2 Invictus, is a really sick logo. I mean, it's at least more than just the 2 logos next to each other. It's kind of just the G2 mask slapped on the IG logo, but... Anyways. How many teams? The Esports World Cup for Rainbow Six has a total of 16 teams, 3 of which are NA. 4 of which are Brazil, 3 NA, 3 Europe, and then 1 from each of the minor regions. All right, we have more things to talk about. Of course, I want to talk about the HUD. I actually wrote up last night probably like a 4-paragraph long tweet about the HUD, and then I didn't tweet it. I deleted it. I believe Ambi was the main one to tweet about it. Also, can I shit on Twitter for a moment? Why is it when I search Twitter and I type AMBI in the search feed, Ambi, the Rainbow Six player, who I follow and who follows me, does not show up, but CNBC Ambition does? Like, what is going on here? I press enter and he doesn't even show up. Who is this? I don't have a fucking clue who this is. Why are they the only? Why is the Legend of Zelda's content creator the only person that shows up when I type in Ambi Sonic's R6? I ran into the same issue last night, and it's like, even when I type this in, his account doesn't pop up. It's a random ass R6 tweet from February that pops up. Anyways, Ambi last night tweeted, "Bro, this HUD is some ass," and you'll see it here. I don't know what league this is from. This must be some tier 3 league. TPL, I guess. I've never heard of that, to be honest. It's got some good teams though. It's SG Academy versus Outlast. I mean, these are good teams. And so this is the new spectator HUD. Now I want to. He blocked me. He didn't block me. I want to first and foremost say this looks bad. I have 2 show cats. The cats aren't here. No, I'm sorry. You've wasted your points. Thank you though. I did miss those. So first and foremost, this looks bad, right? There's a ton of super vital information missing on this HUD. First and foremost, we can't see the kill death total of any player, which is huge. That's a super important bit of information. And on these minimized HUDs, there's like no information that we get, right? On these little player cards, you know, all we can tell is what operator someone's playing, their health, but it's in numbers, not in a bar, their position, which is actually new, what they're currently holding, so whether they're on a drone, whether they're on a gadget, whether they're holding a gun in their hand, and then their name. That is not enough information. Straight up, that is very, very bad, right? But I do think it's important to watch. Who fucking tweeted it? NC Jack. It's important that shouldn't be what the HUD typically looks like. If you'll remember from the reveal panel, this is what the HUD should be looking like most of the time. Basically, every single player card should be expanded at all times. I don't know why that random tier 3 league that Ambi tweeted about didn't have the HUD fully expanded. Ambi_R6. I don't know why this league doesn't have the HUD fully expanded, but in regular competitive play, it should always be expanded. So that makes it a lot better in my mind. I think if this was the permanent HUD, this would be complete dog shit and we should riot about it. This is not as bad. Is it still a downgrade? I think in some ways it is. Whether the HUD is at the bottom or at the sides is very much personal preference. I think it is cluttering less of the screen if it's at the bottom. I think it's less likely to cover important information. You know, like this is a good screenshot from Jack where like the left side of the screen is kind of important to see here, right? You'll notice sometimes if you're watching R6 broadcasts when the observers are spectating a Fenrir. Fenrir's like left half of his HUD where you can see like who he's tracked and who he has available to track is completely covered by the UI. So I do think the HUD being on the side covers up less shit than if it was at the bottom. But you know, as a legacy esports fan. Oh, I meant Deimos. My bad. Deimos, yes. As a legacy esports fan, I'm not used to it being at the bottom. I don't like change. I stylistically prefer it on the sides. I think you could make these sides a lot smaller without removing important information, and still hiding some of the, you know, it's still making it less obtrusive. But ultimately, I don't think it matters that much, whether it's on the bottom or the side. What matters to me is the information. And And one thing I am noticing with this screenshot is we no longer see the KD, right? In the trailer, these look really nice. We've got the full kill-death ratio down here at the bottom. We've got all these bits of information about util and drones and their weapons and their primary utility, etc., etc. Here, this looks a lot worse. Like, I don't know if it's just the resolution, but it seems to be thicker, it seems to be shorter, and we've lost the KD ratios. If we don't have KDA on the HUD, that's a big problem. Also, even on this version of the HUD, we no longer can tell who's been planting. It's not the most important piece of information. But here on this HUD, you can see 2200. That means 2 kills, 2 deaths, 0 assists, 0 plants / disables. Log in and try it out. Actually, a genius move. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I have Siege open, which is handy. I don't really need to minimize this. You need 2 buddies? I don't think so. Is it just gonna immediately end? Disables don't pop up in stats? Is it just plants? There's an option to show the KD. Interesting.
Attacker's objective is to locate a bomb and defuse it.
Oh, I guess we don't have any fucking people in the lobby. Shit. I was like, no, I can be in there. Do match replay? I'd have to play a game. I don't have any replay files that aren't corrupt. All right. We're gonna play a quick match, quick. Just to get the HUD.
No, this is food. This is beans. Someone put beans inside the computer.
Zevernith for 20 or 43 months. Thank you very much, Zevernith. The HUD isn't the same. The replay doesn't have the new UI. All right, fuck it then. We'll never know. The point is, I'll trust chat on this one. I'll trust that having KD at the bottom is a choice, which means that whatever league this is double fucking up because they're not showing the KD and they're not showing the expanded HUD. I think a HUD that looks like this is fine. Do I prefer it over this HUD? Not really. But ultimately, I don't think this is that bad. I do think we're cluttering the top a lot more. Again, the operator bands feel very out of place. This full util, I don't know. Chat, give me your opinions. Do you guys look at these top bars? Or historically, have you just been looking at like utility here? Because I do look at the top bars sometimes, but I find I usually look at the sidebars. You look on the card. We also completely lose this bottom bar. But again, all of this is just reused information, so we're not losing any info on it. Dianix sent me a screenshot on Twitter. Where did you send it? I have no DMs from you. On Twitter. Do I not follow you on Twitter? Sheesh, egoed. It's such a small picture. Oh, it's bigger here. All right. So this doesn't look that bad, right? The attackers are minimized here because they're still in drone phase. I do think the top looks weird, and I think I'm annoyed we lost how many times people have planted. Too much info. This is less info than the old HUD. Right? This is exactly the same amount of info, but it's repeated fewer times, and we don't have plants anymore. They need to stop changing shit that doesn't need to be changed to less info. I'll kind of explain to you what I was going to tweet last night. And what I was going to tweet last night, I eventually deleted it. I didn't end up tweeting it. Was that, first and foremost, I was not consulted on this HUD. I know some talent were. I was not. I was not consulted on the HUD change. From what I've heard, there were no changes made after consultations. I could be wrong on that. Maybe there were earlier consultations I'm not aware of where changes did get made. But my understanding is very little changed after talent were consulted. But I've heard from a few people, and I won't name names, but I've heard from a few people in different places of the scene. This idea that, like, numbers are... overloading the game with numbers is going to, in some way, turn off viewers. And I think this is bullshit. I think this is really insulting to the intelligence of the viewer. I think this is hurtful to the players who do care about it, and I think it's very disrespectful to the players who don't. But ultimately, like, I think this trend of pushing away from numbers, this trend of just trying to simplify everything, is really not helpful to the viewer experience. If you are an experienced viewer coming through, Des tweeted. Oh yeah, this is actually, I've read this tweet, assuming it's not new. Yeah. I do know that, like, some talent, blind coming, some talent gave feedback that they liked the HUD, some talent gave feedback that they didn't like the HUD. Again, I wasn't asked. But ultimately, I think this trend away from, like, number-heavy broadcasts is really bullshit. Because I think if you're a long-term viewer and shit gets removed, like seeing players' KDs, seeing how many times they planted, seeing how much utility some people have, that is very frustrating, right? If you're a viewer and you want to know, hey, is Gunner close to breaking the kill record? How many kills does he have this map? And you can't find that information just by looking at the fucking screen, right? If you have to instead find that information by scrolling through your phone to find it on a website, or by listening and waiting for the casters to give that information to you, you're going to be less engaged with the stream, and you're going to tune out, you're going to get annoyed, you aren't going to watch. Similarly, if there's like a smoke holding server stairs, and the observer is, you know, off watching something on like bank main stairs or some shit, and you want to know, hey, how many toxic babes does the smoke have? Like, are the defenders in a good position here, or have they already used all their toxic babes? If you can't visually get that information immediately, that's frustrating to you. And I think if you're a new viewer and you come in and you see a bunch of information, right? If you're a new viewer and you come in and you say to yourself, I don't know what any of these numbers mean, you're not going to care. I'm sorry, I don't think new viewers are stupid enough that they're going to come in, see a bunch of numbers, and be like, ah! And then go watch Overwatch. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to see these fucking numbers, and they're going to think, I don't know what any of this means, but there's people shooting each other on my screen. I'm going to focus on that. Yay, blue team died. Yay! I'm a big Dota fan, okay? I'll bring up Dota a lot in this stream, I know. The Dota TI quals are going on right now. This is what the Dota HUD looks like. When I first started watching Dota, let me like make it big for you. When I first started watching Dota, I didn't know what any of these fucking numbers meant. Okay? I didn't know what any of this shit was. What are these numbers up here? What do these bars mean up here? What is this? What are all these? What is all of this stuff on the player profile? What is any of this? But did I get scared and run away? No, I ignored it. And I watched team fights. I watched players get kills. And eventually, through watching the game, I learned what those numbers meant. And I learned to appreciate what they meant. And it improved my own understanding of the game, and it improved how much I enjoyed watching the game. Now, it's possible I would jump in and I wouldn't really get it and I would leave. But the numbers are not the cause of that, right? If this was the exact same HUD, but just with less information on the screen, It's not going to make a newer player stick around, or a newer viewer stick around. It's not going to improve their viewing experience. It's just going to frustrate the people who do know what that shit means and who do want to see that. And it's going to make it harder for that person to further engage with the game, to get deeper into it, to become a long-term fan. I think this idea that we need to make everything, you know, look like it will do well on TikTok is stupid. And this is coming from a guy who makes very successful TikToks. I know what looks good on TikTok. I don't think it matters if the HUD looks good to fucking 12-year-olds on TikTok. I don't think that's important. The problem is the space that numbers are taking. And that's a fair point. I think it is very fair to look at this HUD and say our POV, our screen that we're actually looking at to see the game is too small. I want to see what's going on behind this doorway. And so maybe moving it to the bottom makes more sense for that. Maybe it does. And I can accept that. But removing information is not how you do that. You condense, you make shit smaller. I mean, like, the problem with this HUD is not that the KD is taking up too much space. It's that the giant portrait of every operator takes up half the fucking block. Like, why does every single player card need to have both the operator logo and a picture of the operator's face? That's dumb as shit. And I think the best change that's happened here is we've gotten rid of operator portraits. We do not need to know what the face of a Rooney looks like. We don't need to know, like, what these characters look like. We just need their icons. We just need their icons. That's good enough. And so I do appreciate that change here. So that's basically my thoughts on the HUD. Remember getting annoyed the first days of SI when they removed double, triple, and quad kills? Anytime you remove something, people are going to be pissed. And there's no point pissing people off by removing shit. Oh, it's all good, Maverick. Have any of the epic R6 graphic designers communities made mock-up HUDs? Yes! Let me introduce you to the king of graphic designer mock-up HUDs. Devin Crater who? Crater. If you don't follow Devin on Twitter, you should. Devin was the replay operator for Face It back when, well, Devin's done a lot of things. He came up in kind of the North American Tier 2 scene. He worked Challenger League and Element type stuff for a while. Then he got a job with Face It. Then he got a job with EFG. Then he got fired by EFG when they did a bunch of layoffs. And then he did some work for Nerd Street actually on the most recent stage of NAL. And he is the king of making better HUDs. It's been a while, I assume, since he's made a HUD mockup. I'm trying to see if I can find one. Here's one he made a while ago. This is much more similar to the old HUD. But it's very CSGO inspired, obviously. I believe this takes up less space overall than the old HUD, yet still provides more information. Let's see. Nope. Yeah. I think the fact that it just doesn't go all the way to the top makes it look like it shows a lot more of the screen. It's less cluttered. It doesn't have a bar at the top, notably. This bar is gone. So it doesn't show map bands and stuff like that. But there have been community HUDs in the past that have tried to solve these problems, right? In my opinion, the main things, my real one wish list for HUDs is I want to see how many kills a player has gotten in a round. If you've ever been to LAN, let me see if I can find it. Trying to think how to best show you this. If I go to the R6 Manchester Major VODs, R6 Esports, and we go watch the grand finals. What you'll notice, if we go to just the end of a random round... Here. Every time, at I think literally every single R6 tournament, in front of the players, somewhere on the stage, there will be these like player cards, and it'll show the operator. It's very kind of hard to see here, but it'll show you the operator they're playing in the round right here. It'll show you the KD of every player, and then you see 5 X's here. These 5 X's will light up in the round. So if Gaveni gets like a 3K, then 3 of his X's will light up until the next round. That's the bit of information I miss most from the HUD, and that I think would be the best thing to add to a HUD. And it's already tracked in-game. It actually already exists if you go watch a game in LAN. But that's what I would want to see on a HUD at some point. What was I talking about? None of this would be an issue if Ubisoft just made an API for their HUD. Yes. And this is something where, as somebody who's had a lot of conversations with Crater, this is something he has shouted many, many times. Is that ultimately giving the community the ability to create custom stuff with the HUDs is the best solution. Why am I being added in my Discord? You're spamming meats. Okay, thank you. I appreciate what Kane's doing. Doing the reveal of the UI with only 4 players in lobby feels misleading with how much it covers when there's 10 on the server. I mean, again, I think the main point of the new HUD is to cover less. Like, you're right. More of this will be covered, but you can kind of imagine it, right? There's still a lot less being covered than in this screenshot, for example, in my opinion. I will also say, I think the addition of having every player's location is huge. I'm really excited for that part of the HUD. Right under every player's name, under their health and under their logo, you can see the room they're in. This is not helpful at all for new viewers, but if you're a longtime Siege viewer, this will be extremely helpful. And for myself, I'm very excited for this, because obviously there's no minimap in Siege, there's no extra information on like other players in the server if you're not watching their POVs. So this will enable you to kind of see when players are like going for flanks and stuff, and maybe if there's a roamer, where that roamer is. How often will it get used? Like, how often will people actually read these and care about them? Probably not that often. And this is also a change that's really only going to matter to like long-term fans that know exactly where all the rooms are, and also like what rooms are important and why. But still, I do like that quite a bit. I think that is an important change. I think the other negative that nobody really talks about with this HUD is I think visually, the way they display health is really bad. I think at a glance, it's very easy in this screenshot for Dark Zero. I can just instantly look to the right, and I know, listen, Pambazoo Canadian are very healthy, Nath and NJR are both very low, right? In an instant, I can tell that just by looking to the side of my screen. On the new HUD, I gotta fucking read, bro. I gotta read 100, 110, 110, 110. And because every operator has a different amount of health, like, imagine this fucking recruit had 100 health out of 110. At a glance, I see a big number 100. I'm just gonna assume, okay, he's at full health, when he's not. Doesn't matter that much if he's at 100 or 110. Probably not. But it's still misleading, and I think it's a very poor way of showing that. Yeah, I don't have any good screenshots of the HUD when people do take damage. It changes color. Okay. If it changes color, that's nice, but a bar is better. Changing colors is great, but a bar is ultimately going to be the best solution to that. I just don't think there's anything more obvious than like this. for showing the amount of health someone has left. Personally. Now, the different operator health has its own disadvantage with this because if an operator has more health, like, it's obviously different bar lengths can mean different things, or even the same bar length can mean different things. There's no good example of it on this screenshot, but you could imagine, like, if Aruni was a fucking 3-speed and their bar was this length, then Aruni would actually have a lot more health than Nafe at this much bar length, having more overall health. But yes. No compass on the UI is crazy to me. The compass has always been kind of ignored and not cared about, because if you watch any broadcast, like, where's the compass? Like, I agree that I think the compass is quite helpful. I think the compass is especially helpful for new players to learn the rooms, right? Like, if you hear Caster talking about, oh, he's in Archives, and you don't really know where Archives is, well, all of a sudden, see if we can switch to an attacker POV. Ideally, somebody inside the building. Yeah, if the caster's like, oh, he's in Visa, and you, as a new viewer, don't know where Visa is, if Ligifac happens to be in Visa, well, now you've got a good indicator of like, oh, I get it. He's in Visa. This is Visa, right? But the new HUD kind of solves that problem by just showing everybody's position anyways, right? So ultimately, I do think losing the compass kind of stunk, but I think having the position of every player always shown on screen is just as good. So I don't think losing the compass is that big of a deal, actually. And it's nice that it's not going to be covered up half the time. I do wonder where exactly player cams are going to go. I imagine just in the middle. Yeah. Player cams go right in the middle here. And yeah, that's pretty much that. Looking at lower tier leagues, they often don't have player cams, so you can still see compass. Fair.
Parrots are incredible animals.
Does the drone info change if somebody's on it? Like the old one showed if someone was specting a player versus a cam versus a Valk cam. I'm not well, yeah, I mean, it'll be like this, right? If a player is dead, I don't know if you can see it with my HUD. Yeah, you kind of can. If a player is dead, it shows what op they were playing and then what they're spectating. I don't know if that's what you're asking. Yeah, here's a good, thank you, Umbra, for this. Here's a good example of, like, the HUD changing colors. This isn't good enough, right? Like, yes, 12 is red, and obviously the overall image is, like, less filled in color-wise. Same with the Maestro. But I really wish we could see, like, an actual bar. This is just a downgrade in terms of showing health. And showing health is really important, right? Like, that's a huge part of it. I don't know how you would fix it. Maybe you just make the whole box blue, and then as their HP goes down, the blue just goes down, right? Like top to bottom, or orange or whatever. So like if Maestro is full HP, then this whole background would be orange, and then as Maestro takes damage, it just lowers. So if Maestro is 50 HP, the top half would be black and the bottom half would be orange, just for the background. That might be how I change that and just make it a little bit better visually. But even that's not perfect. I still feel like that's generally worse than bars. And health bars are the main reason I think why HUDs in other esports are typically on the side and not at the bottom. It does do that? Kind of, right? Like, color is disappearing, but I wish it was just straight up, just linear. Just like, I don't know. It's very, like, why is this, why is only the right-hand side of it filled in? That's confusing as hell. It's only for the top box. I think for a new viewer, that's just not obvious. I do think that'll be helpful for, like, long-term viewers. I just think if you're new to watching Siege, that's going to fuck you up. And then, obviously, you have the number if you're new to watching Siege. Maybe it's not as big of an issue as I'm making it out to be. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it's not that bad. But I think, in general, a bar is hard to misconstrue, whereas this is going to take some getting used to, right? That side's filled in because that's where you're spectating. No, but I mean, like, if you look at this box, right, under the actual health, like, behind the gadgets, it's, like, blue on the right and black on the left. So the fact that blue is supposed to represent health up here, but down here it's just a fancy little background is, like, kind of fucked. Kind of confusing. Casted Vibrant League today with the new HUD, and the big issue you had with casting was player names. They just aren't noticeable enough. And you think it'd be better if player names were at the top of the box. Ah, they're like way down here at the bottom. Kind of stuffed down there, eh? That is a good point. Like, if you look way down here, not only is it at the very bottom of the screen, as far away as possible, it's also very small text. And it's just white on black or black on white. Which, like, does stand out, but ultimately, it's not like your eye is being drawn to the color. That is a good point I hadn't thought of. Whereas if you look at the old HUD, the names are close to center of the screen. They're quite a bit bigger. They're way bigger. Like, look how big Big Bad Canadian is, just pixel-wise. And compare that to fucking, like, Mr. Tester 446. It's on a colored-in background. So it pops a little bit more rather than just being on like a transparent or a white background. And on top of that, in the old HUD, it was very easy to see who you're spectating because you could just look down, right? If I want to know in an instant, oh, whose POV am I watching right now? My eyes dart down, Solotov. Got it. Back to looking at the action. If I'm watching this game, or like, let's say I'm even watching this game right now. If I want to know, okay, what POV am I watching right now? Well, first of all, I have to look at the bottom. I have to scan through the bottom to see which card is the most lit up, which right now is the far left. And then I have to look to the bottom of this card. I don't know. That does seem like a very critical piece of information that is pushed way too far to the bottom. I feel like the name and the KD should just be above all the gadget shit. Because the gadget shit is, like, less important at a glance. HP and player name gotta be the most important things. And I feel both are just generally harder to see than on the old HUD. Location and name should be swapped? Yeah, that'll do as well. That would do the trick as well. Yeah, name location swap would be an easy fucking fix. Okay, let's watch this clip as well. This isn't a clip. Let's go to an actual gameplay. I mean, this is just fucked up by the observers that it's not fully expanded. And we had this problem with the old HUD. When we first went from the giant square, if you guys remember the giant square HUD, that was fucking terrible. But when we first introduced this HUD, a lot of observers, especially observers in Brazil for some reason, would constantly have all these player cards minimized, and it was terrible. So this is really just a... It's tough for Ubisoft's PR that the very first league to run this HUD didn't realize that it should be expanded 90% of the time. You think somebody... Wait, your co-caster called someone warehouse? That's funny. Ultimately, I don't think the HUD change is going to ruin the esport. I think it's a little bit worse at a glance. I like that we have a little bit new information, but I'm a little bit annoyed that we lose some information as well with it. I do feel it's... I don't know. If it was up to me, I think the old HUD's better than the new HUD. All right. I'm going to move on from the HUD, I think. And I want to give a special shout out to somebody in the community named One, who has helped me compile a bunch of cool new shit. So I reached out to the community last week, and I asked for somebody who was a complete Reddit and Twitter degen. And One answered the call for me. So shout out to One, who has gathered some talking points for me for the stream for us to go over and for us to talk about, and I'll give my thoughts on some shit. So we've got some interesting Reddit shit, some interesting Twitter shit. I haven't looked at these, but obviously some of it we've already gone over. Actually, no, this was kind of sick. I did see this tweet. I do want to talk about it, though. Well, kind of sick is maybe not the right way to put it. Some people are having a little bit too much fun with match replay. Let's watch. I don't know why this is like a square format on TikTok. Okay, so he's chasing down the mute. The mute is set up to take the fight. Solus is here to help the mute. He's saying, no, get out of here, Solus. It's probably better for Solus to flank anyways, to be honest. He nitros. The nitro is shot. He's not finishing his kill. He's trolling. Where the hell did Solus go? Oh, she's just going to play the... Okay. If she just sat white stairs, she gets a free kill, but she'll get a free kill regardless. Not planting on concrete is actually troll. She was too late anyways. And doesn't have time to get the defuse kit, so she's just lost the round. Oh, he didn't plant. Oh, never mind. I'm very glad we have shit like this. Can I say, I definitely misunderstood. This type of shit, as somebody who grew up with like TF2 Source Filmmaker, I'm very glad that we finally have some of that type of shit here. Because back in the TF2 days, man, there was so much good like community content. And obviously this is a little bit, we're in the early stages of it. But I'm really excited to see kind of how this evolves, especially if match replay gets better. But like the shit that people were doing in Source Filmmaker for TF2 was actually insane. I want to show you some shit. TF2 best Saxy winners. Like at this point in Siege's life, we're at this level of quality, and this is fun. I got nothing bad to say about this, but we're obviously still very new. And Source Filmmaker is very different, right? Source Filmmaker is not just replay files, but my hope is that one day this can evolve into shit like this. I just want to show you this because this is absolutely insane.
Fellas, this is the captain speaking. We're about to begin our descent.
I haven't watched this in like 9 years. This is like 9's an exaggeration, but I haven't watched this in like came out 8 years ago. Okay, actually not big of an exaggeration as I thought.
We'll be landing shortly. Please put your seat in the upright positions, no belongings, fasten your seatbelt, all that crap. Thank you for flying with us today on Scout Airlines. We hope you enjoyed your flight. What? Oh, just get out of here! This is our runway.
Fine. You can have this when you pry it from my cold, dead hands.
We'll see about that, freaking buffoon. We're gonna block them all.
And it's crazy. These lines, I'm not sure if this is a new voice actor. The Scout voice actor is like a gamer, so they might have hired him specifically. But I think these are majority just lines pieced together with actual in-game voice lines.
Incoming! Nice hustle, tons of fun.
Yeah, these are mostly actual in-game voice lines, which is kind of sick.
Strike, beat, hammer, and sickle. Look it up.
Run! Run! I'm coming for you!
Too slow. Fat, bald, fatty, fat. Oh, this ain't good.
Did you forget about me? Well, off to visit your mother. Oh, no.
Because it sucks. Oh!
Come, we'll fight like men. Very well.
Beep boop. If fighting is sure to result in victory, then you must fight. Sun Tzu said that. We must fight. Sir, yes, sir. Attack! Attack! Roger that.
I don't know, bro. I think this is like,
You
this is where Siege community, or any game really, could get to, you know? And I think enabling the creative power of the community is always a good idea.
Push! Push like you mean it!
Very good.
Damn it!
Uh-oh. The burning you feel? It is shame. Oh, no!
Like, I don't know how you come up with this shit, bro. I don't know how this, like, is what comes into your brain when you think of a TF2 video, right?
You die at 30.
It's true. Heavy! Don't you dare!
So this is obviously not coming from match replays, right? Like, this is obviously not from match replays. But effectively what Valve games have is they've got all of their assets
Watch and learn. Aha!
available to the public, like all of the models in, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like a video maker. So they've like given the community the models and just enabled them to do whatever they want. And you can also import your own models.
We did it because we're best friends. Go of me.
Incoming!
Ah,
And you combine that with music,
baby.
with
Did you miss me?
voice lines,
You killed him.
Son of a cussing cuss word!
and you can literally make whatever you want. And it's like, this is the type of shit that I would like to see Siege get to. And if that means right now we have to have TikTok montages with Solus running and hiding from Deimos, then I'll accept it.
Negatory!
Oh, a lot of it is NSFW, 100%.
Operation Soaring Eagle. No, that is an order.
Yeah, a lot of the models are definitely made by the community as well.
Come here, babies.
It's gonna get used for evil, but if there's also some good, is that not worth it?
Perfect landing. I win. Who?
That's an in-game cosmetic.
Godspeed, you magnificent bastard.
So did I force you into watching a TF2 cinematic? I did. But I hope that's where we can get to one day. With shit like free cam content. All right, what's next? Chat's been asking for it, so let's talk about Jax to Fear X. I don't have a ton to say on it, other than, huh? So for those who didn't see it, Jax, the French player, right? I believe he's French, has signed with Fear X, the Korean team. Yes. Jax, formerly of Team Valor and then ENCE. So Jax was on this Tier 2 French team for a very long time. He's been playing since 2018. He finally, for the first time ever, made it into EUL with ENCE. They obviously won through Challenger League and got their spot. Or they did well in Challenger League, I should say. I don't believe they technically won their spot. But they're doing well in Tier 2. They won South Breach. And then were signed by ENCE, who bought the spot. And they had a pretty shit stage. They finished 7th overall in the EUL, and then in the LCQ, they lost their first game to... Or sorry, they beat VP. Honestly, none of them made it to the Grand Finals. I actually forgot how big of a run they went on. They beat some good teams. My mistake for forgetting that. They beat some good teams in the EU qualifier. They made it to the Grand Finals where they got slapped on by G2. Now, as we found out, G2 didn't end up being that great of a team. And they also, interestingly, had a 6-man roster. I believe Jax played every game, so I wouldn't worry too much about him. And I wouldn't worry too much about ENCE, given they had that many different players. But all in all, Jax has been picked up from ENCE. Looking at his stats, I mean, he went even in the qualifiers and during EUL itself. How did he do? Pretty bad. He went minus 11. He was actually their... oh, he didn't even play every game. That's right. So it was him or Frenchie that they were swapping in and out of. So he didn't even play every single match. He was playing towards the end, but I believe they started with Frenchie playing, and they swapped after 3 games to have Jax playing. Is playing kind of support roles like Ace, Mira, etc. So not like the craziest player to pick up, frankly. But gets picked up anyways. Is he Korean? Is my question. Does he know any Korean to begin with? It doesn't say anywhere. I don't want to assume. From what I've heard on the inside, from what I've heard getting leaked, is that Jax currently does not speak Korean, at least not very well. And so in the short term, over the summer, he is basically getting paid by Fear X to move to Korea and learn the language. I believe he's already been taking lessons. He's already like started to learn Korean a little bit. But now he's being paid to go to Korea, learn the language, and then starting stage 2, he will play with the team. He will be taking the spot of Nova, who you should know who Nova is. One of the most memed on players in Siege. Nova is maybe the most... Nova might have, like, the most even split of any player between playing and coaching. Not here. Nova as a coach, and primarily in theory, he is a coach for this team, has played 3 lands with Sandbox/FearX, and as a player now, he has played, I think he's played 4, right? No, he's played 6. Okay. Or no. I think this is just coaching and playing combined. So he played at SI 2019. He played at SI 2021. In Yavle, he played... No, I think he played 6 tournaments then. SI 2022, he played... So he's mostly been playing, but every tournament he's played, he's basically guaranteed to be like their bottom player. He should be a coach. He's not good enough to be a player. He's always put on hard support. He always gets really bad KDs. And actually, at the most recent major in Manchester, I think his stats were the best he's ever had by a lot, if I remember correctly. I'm gonna go pull up my stats because they're gonna be easier to get than CGG's, I think. I believe Nova's stats were actually not that bad. Compared to his team. Oh, he went 38 and 72. Okay, I'm wrong. He had a pretty standard Nova performance. 38 and 72 overall in Manchester. So, yeah, played pretty terribly overall. Is that the worst KDR of anybody? Not quite. It was 4th worst. He did better than Taiyu, Arthur, and Kendra. Elite company. So, I mean, this can't not be an upgrade. My thoughts are this. Ultimately, it's not going to be a downgrade. Say what you will about Jax. Was he the best player in the EUL? Of course not. Was he the best player on ENTS? No, of course he wasn't. But I guess he's who they want to pick up. Is he going to be better than Nova? He should be. He should be. And I think the real question just comes in is it really worth it to sign him as a player, transport him to Korea, put him up in Korea, pay for him to get lessons, pay to have him on the roster for an extra 3 months over the summer while he learns there. If you're going to invest this much into a player, I don't know if Jax is the player you want. I'm a little skeptical. I'm a little meh. I don't think this is going to make FearX an insane team. Obviously, they've already got a Brazilian coach. They've had Dark on their roster for a while now. Hasn't really resulted in any success. I think FearX in Manchester had a pretty fucking horrendous tournament. I don't know. I mean, they did show some promise, almost beating Bleed and beating G2. But then they lost to GK game 1, and ultimately, I think if you don't make it out of play-ins, you're looking pretty bad. I guess it depends on your framing. For a team that everyone expected to be one of the worst teams in the tournament, I think beating G2 and almost beating Bleed is probably a good result. For a team that has been together for 8 years and has always been at the top of Korea and has undoubtedly some of the best players in Korea, I think this is a horrendous result. So ultimately, I guess it depends on your framing. I don't feel like this team has really been advancing since picking up Dark, at least not as quickly as I would have hoped. And I mean, you just have to look at talent, right? This is objectively a worse roster of players than this. But with a better coach and with some actual structure, they're doing a lot better. Is adding a mid-tier EUL player to their roster going to get them to the level of PSG? Probably not. So, ultimately on this move, I don't have a ton of thoughts, but it just is a little confusing to me why FearX would make such an investment. And it kind of continues a trend of FearX management just kind of throwing money at international people. First it was Dark, now it's Jax, without a lot of sense behind it, you know? I got nothing bad to say about Dark, but of all the people you could have picked up, I don't think Dark was the most obvious choice. And I don't think it's really resulted in a huge leap or the success that FearX were hoping it would have had. To me, it feels like FearX saw that Brazil was good, and so they just picked a Brazilian coach out of nowhere and hoped it would do well. Now they're seeing EU is good, so they're picking up an EU player without a whole lot of thought behind it. You think FearX is cooking something? I have a good feeling about it. Listen, I would love to give FearX the benefit of the doubt. The problem is this team has just been absolute dog shit for like 6 years, bro. Under different organizations, to be fair. But like, I'm kind of done giving this team the benefit of the doubt. I'm just kind of over it. And if the move doesn't look good on paper, I'm not going to give it faith benefit of the doubt. Some teams I'm happy to give them benefit of the doubt. FearX, I'm past that point. Can we talk about Kanto leaving Wild? We can. For me, the biggest question is like, where does he end up? Does he end up anywhere? Did he tweet anything about it? I'm sure he did. Not really. Here it is. This point, season all around, I would be looking for a team and a free agent at this point. I'm open to trying anything. We'll also try to pick up streaming. Thanks for the support, even the haters. I just don't see Kanto ever getting on a top team again. I have nothing bad to say about Kanto, one of the greatest players to ever touch this game. But I just feel like he's been on... If you're going to count Rogue and Koi, which I think... I mean, he won Berlin with Rogue. We won't count Rogue and Koi. But after Koi dropped him, he went to TT9, to Into the Breach, to Wild. This is 3 different teams. I guess TT9 and ITB are like the same team, right? Yeah, ITB kind of bought out the TT9 roster. But still 2 separate, like, mid to bottom tier EU teams that you're bouncing between without really finding any success. Was Kanto the worst player on either of those teams? I don't think so. But we're starting to get to that point where it feels a little late for Kanto. We'll see where he ends up. To me, though, like, I don't see Kanto ending up on a great team, and I don't think Wild are going to end up as a great team with this move. Are there any rumors as to who they pick up in place of Kanto? Dora, Curly, and Freck. Like... I'm not big in on the Tier 2 EU scene. I won't claim to be an expert on the Tier 2 European players. I can't say I know much about these players. But, like, fuck, man. It doesn't get me excited. It's kind of a whatever move in my mind. I don't see Wild as a top team. I don't think this will make them a top team. So as somebody who is not really involved in the European scene, I think this is pretty irrelevant. Do I think FearX picking up Kanto would have resulted in more success or Jax? Do I think FearX picking up Kanto would have been a better move than picking up Jax? I think picking up Kanto would be a better move than picking up Jax, just because I think... Here's my thought process, right? I think Kanto obviously, like, knows the game better. I think you pick up Kanto as a player, but also just as basically like a coach. I think if you're FearX, you'd pick up Kanto to be a coach that plays, basically. Somebody who's there to teach the players. If he's willing to learn Korean, obviously that's a big if. I think just having somebody knowledgeable and who fundamentally understands the game is what's most important for FearX to pick up. I don't have a lot of faith that Jax is that type of a player. Maybe he is. Maybe I'm sleeping on how well he knows the game, but I don't currently believe that. Whereas I think Kanto probably does. It's hard to know. You know, I'm not in Kanto's head. I don't know how he thinks about the game. But I think it's difficult to be at the top of Siege for that long without knowing something. Kanto to SSG. I mean, I think fucking Benja's a much better pickup for SSG than Kanto would be. I like the Benja move to Space Station a lot. I think as long as Benja can, like, vibe there, I think that's a killer fucking move. Who's better, Fear-X with Dark or D+ with MIDI? Again, it's so hard to call, right? I don't think either are going to be better than PSG Talon. PSG Talon have kind of already shown that, like, even though they didn't start with the best players, they're willing to buy the best players. Like, even they've got the money for it, right? They've got the money to pull Yas out of retirement. I think if there's another player that PSG Talon really want on these other players, they're going to be able to get them. So then it's like you're looking at likely worse players, if not similar level players, with worse coaches. I just don't see either of those players beating out PSG Talon. And so who the second best team in Korea is, I don't think really matters. I probably trust the players on Fear-X a bit more, but I don't know. Talked about that. We talked about... I guess we didn't really talk about it. Yas to PSG is a fucking hype-ass move. Yas is one of the best Korean players of all time. Is Yas the best Korean player of all time? Is it fair to say that? Yas is nasty. Yas was probably the best player on D+ Kia when they made their run through Sweden, right? If you go look at the Sweden major statistics, I believe Yas is like, yeah. Yas was the best player at that major. And this is inarguably the best Korea has ever looked throughout their history, this tournament. So I think it's pretty inarguable that Yas is the GOAT of South Korea. Maybe it doesn't have the legacy of somebody like Envy Taylor, but I think certainly has proven himself much more so than Envy Taylor ever did. PSG spending the money to bring him out of retirement is probably the best hope APAC's ever had. At least in years. Like, I truly think with this move, and with Fabian still leading the helm, and with what I saw in Manchester, I think PSG Talon are on track to be a top 8 team in the world. 100%. Maybe farther. Maybe top 4. Like, I think you give this team till SI, and, like, there's a chance this team wins SI. It is in the cards. If Fabian can, like, really get through to them, and it feels like Fabian has, you've got amazing players in Yas, Misa. I mean, there's some really strong names on this team now. And I think this is probably got more potential long-term than even a team like Bleed. And I love Bleed. I don't like saying anything bad about Bleed. And I'm not saying anything bad about Bleed, but I do think PSG Talon has more potential at this point than Bleed. More potential than Bleed, more potential than Bliss. So I'm really excited to see how they do at Esports World Cup. Really excited to see how they do in Stage 2. But we shall see. I don't think top 8 in Montreal is out of the question at all. And fundamentally, I think if this team does run into problems, they'll just use money to solve them. Don't do my Bliss boys like that. Don't lose 6 maps in a row at the major. That ain't on me. There was a Reddit thread that said, what's stopping DZ from going deeper into these knockout stages? They're pretty comfortably getting to knockout, but can't get past top 4-ish. Roster changes. Who is the weakness? Let's just quickly remind ourselves what the DZ record looks like right now. Let me close some of these fucking tabs too. If we look at DZ for the last couple of tournaments, top 4 in Manchester, top 6 at SI, top 8 in Atlanta, grouped in Copenhagen, grouped at SI. Yeah. So effectively, they won Charlotte Major, then they fell to pieces, missed back-to-back events to end out 2022. Pretty shit performance for SI 2023. Started to rebuild, though, going into Copenhagen, going into their new stage. Started finding more success in Atlanta, made their roster moves, and have been getting better and better and better. Dark Zero have improved literally every tournament since Copenhagen. Dark Zero have gotten better tournament results for the entire last year, for 4 tournaments in a row. Did I close the Reddit thread? God damn it. Here. 58 comments. Jesus Christ. DZ don't have the best map pool. Their map pool is weak. They don't need roster changes, but roles need to change. God damn it. Reddit's so fucking predictable. Map pool literally consists of 1 map or 2. Reading this reminds me why I don't go on Reddit. Canadian roaming. I think broadly, okay. There's two points here. Let's start by talking about, do they need roster changes? I want to answer this with a fundamental, as loud as I can. No. Dark Zero do not need roster changes. That's point number 1 here. I do not want to see DZ making changes. They just placed top 4 in the fucking world. What we see, right? Ultimately, every team's main goal should be make it to SI and win SI. That should be your fucking goal of the year. Win the 6th Invitational. That is your permanent goal. I don't care at what point of the year it is right now. I don't care what your team is at right now. Your goal should always be to win the 6th Invitational. Winning majors is nice. Your goal should be to win invitationals. If we look at the top 4 teams at SI, you'll notice W7M didn't make changes for over a year. FaZe Clan didn't make changes for over a year. Virtus Pro didn't make changes for over a year. G2 made 1 tiny change over the last year. The teams that do well at 6th Invitational are teams that stick around with their roster to build chemistry. We are at the point now where if you have a good roster, we're at about the midpoint of the season, right? We finished 1 major. We're looking into Esports World Cup and the 2nd major coming up, and then it's Invite. If you currently have a good roster, that is, if your name is BDS, if your name is Beast Coast, if your name is Dark Zero, if your name is M80, if your name is FaZe or Furia or Liquid, don't make any fucking changes, please. If you want to have a chance of winning SI, I fundamentally believe consistency is the most important thing. One of the most important things. And I think the teams that are currently at the top, to which Dark Zero is, not the very top, but they're one of the teams at the top, changes are not what they need. Point number 2, Canadian. Canadian is the most controversial player on Dark Zero. One of the most controversial players in the game. Not because of his personality. Obviously, most people like Canadian as a player, or as a person. But I think fundamentally, Canadian is one of the best players on Dark Zero, and cutting him is the stupidest thing DZ could do. When I was talking to Fett last week on stream, Fett literally called Canadian the best player on Dark Zero. I don't know if I'd go that far. I think NJR is probably better individually. But this is a dumb competition to have. Both NJR and Canadian are so good that they are irreplaceable on Dark Zero. You do not get rid of these players unless they are begging to leave you. I believe DZ also have 5 players signed for the full year. The thing about Canadian is, yes, his playstyle is playing Solus, going out on the roam. Right? And Reddit realizes this. But when Canadian is finding success on the roam, he is feeding information to his teammates, to players like Pambazoo and players like fucking Bolo, Dark Zero love to do these 3-man roams with Canadian, Bolo, and Pambazoo. They will do this constantly. And Canadian's whole purpose in these roams is to enable those other 2 roamers to do well. And when it works, Dark Zero crush their defenses. Their roams are very good. When it doesn't work, when Canadian goes down, it looks really dumb. But ultimately, this is the game DZ want to play. Anyone can do that? I don't think so. I don't think anybody can play the way Canadian does to work around with the players. This is, again, where it comes down to teamwork and coordination and consistency. In theory, sure, anybody can do it. But in practice, these 3 players have been doing it for 6 months together. 6 months? When did Bolo join? December? Yeah, 6 months together. This is what works for Dark Zero, and does it work 100% of the time? No, of course not. But this is the playstyle of Dark Zero, and I don't think throwing out their entire playstyle is the correct call. Dark Zero have stood on their playstyle for years now. And yeah, they haven't won a major in a couple of years, but shit, they've come close. And I don't think removing Canadian or changing up the roles or changing the playstyle makes any sense at all for Dark Zero. They're in a good fucking spot. They've been improving steadily throughout the last 15 months. Are they predictable? Absolutely. Do teams read into them? 100%. Does that mean they have no potential at all to ever be the best in the world? I don't think so. I don't think so. And that's the question DZ have to ask themselves. And they've presumably been asking themselves that question. They presumably have always come to the same answer, that no, there is nothing fundamentally wrong with their playstyle. It is different from a lot of other teams. But at the end of the day, it is, it's not so bad that it can't work, right? Dark Zero believe they can win with this playstyle. They've just gotten 3 top 8s in a row. I believe they can as well. How long does it take of being a top 4, 8, or 12 team until a change is needed? I don't think it's a matter of length of time. I think it's a matter of where the tournament circuit is at and when you stop seeing those improvements. Again, the goal for Dark Zero is win SI, as the goal is for every team. At least I think that should be the goal. So for Dark Zero, at this point, you're committed. You got top 4 at the major with this playstyle, with this roster. Commit. Ride it out for SI. Because the last SI, you had this team for what? 2 months? That's not a good enough of a test. So you made this move after Atlanta to bring in Bolo and Nafe. It went pretty fucking well. Your second attempt with this roster also went pretty well. Give it the year. Let's see how Dark Zero do at the World Cup. Let's see how they do in Montreal. Let's see how they do at SI. Unless Dark Zero completely bottom out in NAL, right? Unless they finish like bottom 3 in like NAL stage 2, I don't want to hear any conversation about Dark Zero making changes until SI is over. After SI, you look at the results, you look at the team, you look at the progress you made through the year, and you make that call. But there's no length of time that's like you have to give a roster this much time. It's all about, is improvements being made, and where are you in the like current year? Yeah, I mean, Poobie's exactly right. This roster is relatively new. We gotta let them cook. And then the last conversation here seems to be the map pool for Dark Zero. So let's look at the fucking numbers. This does not include Dark Zero's. So these are the numbers for DZ's maps, right? Now this does not include the semifinals, where Dark Zero obviously lost twice. So you can add a losing column onto Border and a losing column onto Oregon. So that'd be 2-2. Oregon will be 0-1. Semis numbers, quarterfinals notes. Okay. So look at these numbers. Tell me, does Dark Zero have a small map pool? Well, In Stage 1, they played every single map at least once. Now, I think it's pretty fair to say Oregon is not a Dark Zero map. I think it's fair enough to say that Dark Zero cannot play Oregon. They didn't play at all of SI. They had a really bad record in Stage 2 last year, and the one time they played it this year, BDS beat the shit out of them. So I think it's fair to say Oregon, bad map for Dark Zero, okay? Now let's look at them in order. Clubhouse, they beat Beast Coast on it in the NAL playoffs. Did they choose the map against Beast Coast as well? It's a map they did ban against BDS, but obviously BDS are the best club team in the world, you could argue. It's a map that M80 banned against them first phase. And if you go back to the North American League when they beat Beast Coast, it was Dark Zero's map pick. So I think it's pretty fair to say that Clubhouse is in the map pool of Dark Zero. Cafe. Well, they had a winning record. They beat 2 teams in Manchester on Cafe, including Beast Coast and M80. Dark Zero chose Cafe against M80 in the quarterfinals. So I think it's pretty fair to say that Dark Zero can play Cafe. Chalet, undefeated in Manchester, beating Bliss and M80. Although both games were close, 7-5.
Someone put
Demino for
beans
23
inside
months.
the
Thank you
computer.
very much, Demino. So a 3-1 record this stage, Dark Zero and Chalet. M80 did choose it against them, so clearly M80 didn't think it was the greatest map for Dark Zero, but Dark Zero won it. And BDS were so afraid of Chalet that they first phase banned it against Dark Zero. So with those stats, I think it's pretty fair to say, yeah, Dark Zero plays Chalet. Bank is where we start to get into the arguments of maps DZ don't play that well. They won it against Oxygen in the NAL third place game, and then they lost it to Secret 7-5 their first day of Manchester. So not the best record, and if we look at Bank, they left it up against BDS, but eventually banned it second phase. M80 banned it second phase against Dark Zero here in the quarterfinals. I won't pretend like this is an amazing map for Dark Zero. After they lost it to Secret on the very first day, that was here. Prior to that, Beast Coast first banned it against them. Against Scars, they did ban it, but again, they banned it late. Against Bliss, they banned it, but they banned it late. I think Dark Zero Bank is not their favorite map, but I think it's unfair to say they cannot play Bank. So I'm going to say Bank is in their map pool. Maybe we'll give it yellow. Not as confident, but they definitely play it. We're just looking at the numbers here. So I'm not even going into my own personal opinions on how they play on these maps. I'm just looking at the numbers. Okay. What about Dark Zero on Border? Well, they played it 4 times this stage. 3 times domestically. Actually, I think all 4 times were domestic. How did they actually do in Manchester on Border? Hold. Well, they picked it against BDS. Obviously, this was a questionable pick and didn't work at all for them. They did have M80 ban it against them back in the BO3s of Swiss. Bliss first banned it against them. This is one of the maps they first banned against Scars, where I think it's fair to argue Dark Zero are also not great at it. But, I mean, they played it against Beast Coast late. They slammed Oxygen on it. They slammed LG on it. I think this is another map where, like, is it a strong map for Dark Zero? No. Can they play it? Sure. So we'll call it yellow as well. Then we look at Skyscraper. They only played it once this stage and they lost it. And that was to M88 or 7-4. This is a map that they've been banning a lot as well, as if I can recall. Skyscraper, they first banned against BDS. They first banned against M80. I think it's fair to say that this is a map they really don't play. Consulate, they played twice this season. Beating Oxygen, losing to Beast Coast. And we know Beast Coast are quite bad on Consulate. This is going to be another one where I think Dark Zero can play it. You know, they left it up as the decider against BDS. They late banned it against M80. Something Fett talked a lot about, though, is how bad North America is at Consulate in general. So we're going to call it yellow. And Nighthaven, Dark Zero are arguably the best team in the world. So our Dark Zero, 1-5 on Sky Red, yeah. Are Dark Zero having map pool problems? Maybe a bit. Maybe a bit. They can't play Oregon. They can't play Sky. Their Consulate is probably not good enough to beat international teams on. Bank, I think they probably could beat international teams on. I don't think NA is a bad region when it comes to Bank. They did lose to fucking Secret on it, though. But it was close. And Border, they clearly can't play against international teams either. So fundamentally, you've got 4 really good maps for Dark Zero. Club, Cafe, Chalet, and Labs. Then you got 2 maps they really cannot play, and then 3 maps which they've kind of been forced to play a few times. And haven't been great at. Ultimately, 4 maps is not enough. 4 maps that Dark Zero are feeling really good on is not going to be enough to win a major. So I think it is fair to say that Beast Coast or Dark Zero have some map ban problems, but I don't think it's that hard to fix. I think if Dark Zero can get a few more reps in on Bank, if Dark Zero can work on their Bank a little bit, I think they're in fine spot. 5 maps is okay, because you're going to get 1 for your pick, and then you'll get at least 1 for the decider. And against a lot of opponents, you might even get a 3rd for the map that they're picking, if you can play the map bans well, right? So I think it's fair to say that Dark Zero don't have the strongest map pool, and that it is a problem they should look into fixing for Stage 2 and for the Esports World Cup. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. Ultimately, my thoughts on this are just Dark Zero need a bit more time. They need to work on their maps a bit more, but I don't think these are in a bad space. Hello, Demo! My bad, I was ignoring you. What are we arguing about in chat? Other than Demo. Esports World Cup seems like an M80 tournament. Got a feeling people won't be fully trying in terms of strats and teamwork, so Spoit and Citizen just roll people. And then go out in quarters. No, I think that's silly. I think people will be trying very hard for Esports World Cup. It's an insane prize pool, and it's the only tournament going on in the summer that matters. You got to keep in mind, like, any strat that you have in fucking August, early August, is going to be, like, out of date anyways by the time we get to fucking November for Montreal. Like, I don't think strat saving is that big of a deal because it's so long between Esports World Cup and Montreal anyways that, like, it doesn't, nobody's really going to care to save strats. And the prize pool is big enough that people are going to care. And also prestige-wise, like, people are going to care. Like, this is basically the same as being a Stage 2 champion in previous years. So I think it's kind of silly to think people won't care for this. I think the winning team in Esports World Cup will be someone from North America or Brazil. Who? I don't know exactly, but it'll be someone. Check DMs.
The boys. Leader does find Southbart first out of position. Is the Warden.
What?
But it's traded back by Demo. 3 versus 3 now as the Monty makes
was
his
this
way
guy
in and
shooting
plant
at?
is now confirmed. It's going to be a post-plant situation. Can the Oryx find this Monty and shut him down?
Smoke canisters come out to block the view. Monty eats up a big chunk of damage. The Monty pushing in towards this elbow.
You're such a bitch.
Monty gets the shield up. Punch comes in. He tags him up. Monty coming on, charging on in. But Demo finds one. 2 versus 2 now. They're on the diffuser. Demo shuts it down. And it's all down to Finn. Up for the boys. Leader does find...
This is a good transition. I think Monty is the most broken operator in the game right now. Demo, would you agree with me?
Outbark first out of position. Is the Warden.
Was there a guy beside you there? Oh, he did get a kill. Okay, my bad. My mistake, Demo. I didn't see there was a guy there. Quality's a little low. Yeah, I think right now Monty is the strongest attacker operator in the game. I've talked a lot about this on stream already, so I don't want to dive too deep into it. But I do fundamentally think we're heading into a Monty meta. And I think fundamentally, and I don't know if you'll agree with this part, Demo, I think this Monty-focused meta is a meta that Europe is lagging behind in. And the reason why I think either North America or Brazil will win the Esports World Cup is because I think NA and Brazil have by far the best Monty players in the world. And I don't think there's really any great Monty players inside of Europe. Like, Bride is good, but he doesn't play it that often. And then who is there? There's Demo. There's Demo. I mean, maybe it's time for someone to pick Demo up. Maybe that's how EU gets on the Monty train, but I just don't see anybody in Europe that's like abusing shields the same way that like top teams in NA and Brazil are. I am the best Monty. Like this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't think Demo is the best Monty player in Europe. I refuse to admit that. I refuse to believe that is true, but I don't know who would be. I guess Bride. I guess Bride is the best Monty player in Europe, but he just doesn't play the operator very much. Yeah, Alamo plays Monty a bit, but G2 is blowing up as in front of our eyes. You're right. Alamo plays a lot more Monty than fucking Bride does. That's a good point. Playing Monty means you're a bitch. No wonder NA won an event. I mean, I've told you this I've shown this on stream before. But all you have to do is look at the fucking attacking win rates from Manchester Major. Attacking win rates from Manchester. Space Station, Dark Zero, M80, Beast Coast. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dark Zero abused the fuck out of shields. Beast Coast abused the fuck out of shields. M80 abused the fuck out of shields. Space Station probably abused the fuck out of shields the least. And who's after these? E1, who are famous for doing one thing, and that's putting Arthur on Monty. And then BDS is 6th, who also had some good Monty plays in there. I'm not going to pretend, I don't think, especially after talking with Fed about it, I don't think Monty is the only reason that these teams are at the top of the attacking win rates. But I do think it's a big component. Fish O guy. Excuse me. All right. Let's watch the Manchester Major after movie. Let's watch it on YouTube, though. What the fuck are we doing with the Twitter link? I actually have not watched this after movie yet. I keep meaning to, but I keep finding better stuff to watch. All right. In my opinion, the Blast after movies have been kind of sleeper. They've been kind of mid. So I want to see some redemption out of this after movie. It's 4 minutes. Okay.
Welcome to Manchester. Feels like...
Okay, they're already opening the fucking after movie with Demo. So we're starting off at about a -5 points just off that.
Welcome to Manchester.
Feels like this one has been a long time coming. Shall we show them how the UK does it, guys? SSG sent home. Scars came so close. Talon have fumbled at the final hurdle. R6.
Okay, I actually like that. So we're starting at like just the last day of Swiss. I think that's pretty clean, actually. Chad asked quickly who has the best map pool. Off the top of my head, probably FaZe or Liquid.
Esports has taken those that love it all around the world, but never before in the UK. That changes here and now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Blast R6 Manchester Major.
Dianic! Also fucking, Rick and Morty. Doki.
Is our 8 final teams. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for our finalists.
The world champions defeated.
There's a fire sale on tournament favorites Manchester, and the underdogs are buying.
Ooh. That's fucking nice. Lynx is so good.
A semi-final Saturday of Siege. Let's have it, Manchester! Action from the bees. It goes in. Shotgun in hands. Oh my god! Oh my god! And it's heartbreak for Nath, but for BDS, their first shot in a year and a half at raising that trophy. Are you ready to introduce our show match?
Sorry. I'm sorry for pausing. But I was so sure Milos was about to say, are you ready for grand finals?
Let's bring them up! Get in there, Tom. Here we go. Bang!
How intimidating is that going to be having that stuck behind? It is absolutely massive.
Our champione, Mr. Tom J. Sherlock and his team! It's a pleasure and a joy to bring you all in to the final. This is the Cinderella story, to say the least. I mean, they made themselves #1 NA, and now they find themselves here at the grand final.
If Laxing gets a line and I don't, this goes F tier.
Gets on the other side.
I think they are some of the best
Laxing and Jack gets a fucking quote.
players in the world.
Manchester, are you ready?
Oh, I wasn't on the pre-desk. Okay, you know what? That's fair. That's fair. I wasn't there. Okay, you're right. You're right. Hey, when you're right, you're right. Fair enough.
One more time, let's bring up our team to the stage. The job isn't finished.
I'll give some actually behind the scenes shit on this. The reason I'm not on this pre-desk. The reason I'm not here is because there was actually such a shit show. So if you'll remember back, basically how the day went was we opened the show with me, Milos, and Laxing. And we did like a mini pre-grand finals desk. I was not hungover. I was there before Jack was. I was working on stage before Jack was. And we did a mini pre-grand finals, but we did it before the show match. So we did like a pre-thing. We did a pre-show match desk. Jack is not here for any of it. And eventually Jack was coaching Tom J. Sherlock's team in the show match. Maybe it was the other team. I don't know. Jack was one of the coaches in the show match. So he wasn't actually on the desk until this. But then this was basically a super short 5-minute desk before the grand final started. And the reason for that is because we had basically no time between the end of the reveal, which was locked in stone. The reveal time couldn't change because that was Ubisoft contract couldn't change the reveal time. And the start of the grand finals, if they had pushed the grand finals start back, we would have been there till like 3 in the morning. We were already starting very late UK time. So production made the call to basically shrink the pre-desk to be like, I think the pre-desk was 7 minutes, including player walkouts, including map bans, including introductions, including talent walkouts, like everything. So actual analyst talking time was about 3 minutes. So we made a call as a group that that there would only be 2 analysts on the actual pre-desk. And since Jack wasn't on the pre-desk and Laxing didn't work any games in the semifinals, I stepped off.
One more time, let's bring up a team to the stage.
The job isn't finished.
Hold on, I'm pausing a lot, but I have fun stories to tell.
Let's bring up a team to the stage.
The morning of the grand finals, we had to get there so early because we had to do rehearsals, right? And they were rehearsing this, where they shine the spotlights onto fucking Shaiko and Gunnar, right? And this was a cool idea. But I'm sitting in the green room sipping my coffee, trying to wake up because we were there so early. And all I wanted to do was sit there and drink my coffee. And I had been told, we do not need you in rehearsals for like 30 minutes. So I was chilling. I was like eyes closed, sipping my coffee, closed for rehearsals. And then somebody comes to the room and they're like, Jesse, you need to get out there for rehearsals. And I was like, what do you mean? I was told I'm not needed for like 30 minutes. They're like, I'm being told you need to be there. So I was like, fine, I'll go to rehearsals because I'm a good boy. I go where I'm told. I do what I'm supposed to do. I go to rehearsals. No one's there. Milos isn't there. Laxing isn't there. I'm like, how am I supposed to rehearse without Milos and Laxing? And the stage manager is like, Jesse, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I was pulled to rehearse. They're like, oh, no, you're not rehearsal. But we do need somebody to stand in for Shaiko on the spotlight rehearsal. Can you do that? And so it's like, fuck. So early in the morning, I was standing here under the spotlights like I was fucking. Wait, they get the Gunnar quote saying, if you believe in us, I love you, let's go. They didn't get the quote where right before that he says, if you didn't believe in us, fuck you.
If you did believe in us, I love you,
let's go! Cut out of the after movie feels bad. That was good. Still not my favorite after movie. I think the grand finals deserved way more time than it got. Like, there was 2 clips from the grand finals.
Keep people wrong.
And both were from map 5.
The sun is the fate of the intel.
They did one Shaiko clip when they were down on match point.
Free day.
And then the final shot. Like, in my mind, the grand finals should be the majority of these 4 minutes. The grand finals was like 45 seconds. The show match was like as long as the grand finals. And not including the pregame stuff for the grand finals. But like, I wish the afternoon movie told the story of the finals a little bit better. I feel like I don't know. It's more of a personal opinion. I think for what they did it well. I wish they'd done something a little bit different, but I think for what they did it well. Cool after movie. Sad I wasn't in it. I will survive. What is this open trials? Outlast Gaming is having open trials? The Reaper is on the move south. Fear the Reaper. Players and coaches. Oh, yeah, they're going to LATAM. It's no secret that Outlast Gaming has been pursuing entry into the NAL for some time. I had no idea. I thought they were just happy being in T3. Okay, cool. Previously, Outlast has been denied in its last 2 attempts to enter the NAL. With our unwavering passion for the spot and a means to make our dream a reality, we've decided to pursue other avenues of joining the professional circuit. Note our intentions will always be to one day join the NAL and become a major player in the scene where our true home resides. I'll finish reading this and then I'll say what I want to say. Outlast Gaming is in pursuit of players who will attempt to compete in the Rainbow Six Siege LATAM Pro League. Oh boy. For Stage 2 of the 2024 season. Outlast will be holding open trials similar to those held by WildCard in 2023. The overriding goal is to obtain a roster that will relocate to the LATAM region, qualified for the pro season. Okay. Number one, this is not my most important thought, but this is just something that sticks out to me. This logo has not been used since 2021? 2022, maybe? This logo has not been used since Face It Randall region. The term NAL has not been used since Face It Randall region. And the term Pro League has not been used since ESL Randall region. So there's 3 separate terms and or logos that are technically out of date. I still say NAL all the time, and this logo is fire. But if you are making a public plea to join the NAL, you should probably call it the right name. All right. My second question is, are they trying to get, like, Mexican players, or are they trying to get NA players and just send them south? Like, do they want an English-speaking roster, is my real question here. They don't seem very clear. Players understand that Outlast has not obtained a license to enter the LATAM Professional League. So you're fucking telling me they might get a bunch of random tier 3 players to, like, qualify or to, like, trial for them, and then they don't even make it to the Hispanic League? Imagine you go through all these trials, maybe you turn down an offer for, like, some other bad team, and you just have to play in fucking Element 3. Oh no. You end up getting put into TPL. Jesus. I don't want to dunk on this too bad. I mean, it seems very odd. It was still not clear if they're trying to get an English roster or a Hispanic roster. But yeah, it seems like a cool org. I hope that they, you know, can find a good player or can find a good team, and I hope that they, you know, can contribute to the Hispanic scene. But, like, I do have to ask the question: if you've been denied entry into the NAL twice, why? And I also have to, you know, just say that it's a little bit odd the way that they've been presenting this so far. But let's see if there's any spicy quotes. CD is coaching. Oh, CD. Is he not working for ITB anymore? Huh? Is CD still coaching ITB? Says he is. Oh, his contract ran out June 1st. Oh. Okay, interesting. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I agree with this take a lot. I hope it's not just like some weird PR move. Like, the fact that they don't even have a spot yet makes me a little concerned. And I'm a little concerned they're just trying to import a bunch of Tier 2 NA players. But we'll see. It's still the NAL North America League. So the official name is Blast R6 North America League. But you'll notice the acronym NAL has never officially been used. I've said it on broadcast, but it's not in any of the branding. It's not in any of the tweets. It's not in any of the blog posts, nothing like that. Whereas it used to be back when Face It ran the league. You missed plays of the week for major quals. Why isn't it done anymore? I assume budget was just cut. I actually don't remember exactly what you're referring to. When are the Jesse's Chicks making their debut? If I ever get an esports team, I will be calling them the Cereal Squad, just so you know. They're trying to relocate Americans. Yeah, that's kind of what I assumed. Isn't an org also doing this for the Asia League? There's a Russian team that's going to play in, like, Sri Lanka, I think. I have heard something about that. All right, chat, we've been live for about 2.5 hours now. This has been a really good stream. I appreciate you guys all hanging out. But the Dota TI Grand Finals of the North American TI qualifiers are beginning. So I'm going to go watch that. Is that Russian thing not public? I thought it was leaked already. Thankfully, I don't know enough about it to actually leak it. But yeah, I believe there's going to be a European team attempting to play in the South Asia region for Stage 2. Not sure. Chat, thank you for coming by. I'm going to be live tomorrow, probably, maybe in a couple days. I don't know. I don't have a super planned out schedule right now. We will be live guaranteed Monday for the E3 Open Qualifiers. I want to be live between now and then as well, talking some Siege, playing some games. You know how it goes. If you're new here, I'd appreciate a follow. If you're new here, I'd also appreciate jumping into the Discord. It's a great community. We got cool shit going on all the time. Everybody, please send your support to Nouns to beat Shopify Rebellion in the Dota 2 TI North American Finals. And I'll see you in a couple of days. Probably tomorrow. I'm going to shoot for a stream tomorrow. But being in the Discord is the best way to keep up to date. So, I hope you all have a wonderful evening. And I will see you on the next one. Later, guys.
Little too much too late. I don't really got too much to say. Pretty young thing when you come my way. No, I can't think head up in space. You my rocket girl. They said I'm looking too high when I'm talking to you. It must be true. Stars in your eyes, they a beautiful view. You my rocket girl. Every time I see your face, got me feeling confused.